Just before we get into this video, guys, I am aiming for 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you would help me out and subscribe if you do enjoy the content, even if you don't, just mute me or something. Like, do it anyway for a laugh. Do it for banter. Do it for banter. That'll be good. Where was I going with it? Yeah, subscribe. Cheers. So in this video, I wanted to talk about not necessarily a review of the story, because I think I've spoke about this story on Patreon before and in other Troughton videos, possibly, I don't know. But Web of Fate is a fantastic story, don't get me wrong. But I wanted to talk specifically about the animation. Now, I know this video is like a month out of date, or maybe even more now. I can't actually remember when it got released. But the more that I've sort of thought about it, the more I think I've got to say about it. So I want to talk about the animation and just my general thoughts on the change in style, the choice of story as well. So yeah, let's get into it. So yeah, first and foremost, when they announced that they were going to be doing a animated part 3 for the Web of Fear, I was really confused, because mostly the Web of Fear does exist. It's literally just part 3 that doesn't. So I did think that seems like an odd choice, because there's so many stories that are still missing. Obviously we've got Evil of the Daleks coming out now, but at the time when they announced this, I was like, why don't you just do Evil of the Daleks or Dalek Master Plan, or, you know, there's various other Hartnell stories that you could do, because there's quite a few that still haven't even been touched yet. Go there. We've had quite a few Troughtons, which I love, but, you know, show Hartnell some love. So yeah, announcing this, I was like, we don't really need this at the minute. Like, I don't like the telesnaps or the reconstruction, however you want to word it. But, you know, it's only one part. It's still watchable in, you know, what is already a really good story. So, you know, you can live without an animated version of part 3. It's fine as is, you know, it's not a priority. But then I think it quickly became clear the reason why is because this was an experiment. They were changing the animation style drastically to a more 3D style, and, you know, if you do this with something like Evil of the Daleks, a story that people want to see, that's, I think it's 6-7 parts maybe, and it doesn't work, then that's a disaster. That's an absolute disaster, because people want to see that story, but if they feel like it looks like absolute garbage, they're gonna want the money back. I do appreciate the fact that they did want to experiment, and they did want to be like, hey, look, we've been doing these 2D stories for a while now. Obviously they are quite different in style, because, you know, the Invasion, for example, doesn't really look like Power of the Dalek. I mean, it does a bit, but not massively. Or the Moonbase even, that's quite a different sort of style. But the point is, they're like, hey, we're going to switch this up. And I do appreciate that they did go to 3D, because, you know, again, it's something different. I appreciate that change. But I think overall, when I watched the episode, it isn't great. It really isn't great. And I feel bad saying that, because I know that a lot of time and effort and hard work went into this. But at the end of the day, I'm not just gonna, you know, just because people work hard doesn't necessarily mean that the end product is 10 out of 10. Thing is, I want these animations to work. I want them to be as good as they possibly can be, because the thing is, with these episodes that they're animating, they don't exist. And chances are they're never going to exist again. It's not like we can just jump in a time machine and stop whoever it was from destroying the original copies of Power of the Daleks, Fury from the Deep, stories like this. So, you know, I want them to be as close to the original as possible. I want them to look good and all this sort of stuff. Everybody does. And I do appreciate that people are working to get these stories out there. But I think this episode, the style of it really was quite laughable in places. And there are parts of it where it genuinely is mind-blowing how they looked at it and thought, yep, that'll do. And again, I do apologise if people watching this are people who were involved in making the actual thing. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm a consumer, and this is what I thought of the product. I think when it comes to the backdrops and the sets, they were fine. There was nothing wrong with that. And I do also like the fact that it isn't just, I mean, one thing that I do have with the 2D animation is I hate how sometimes it looks quite static, and it's very much just like shot here, shot here, shot here, and they'll even repeat certain things. With this, I do like the fact that it isn't just sort of like this camera is on me now, like a mid shot. I do like the fact that there's angles from above and, you know, like tilted a bit and all this sort of stuff. It looks a lot more like how Doctor Who was actually filmed in that time. So I do appreciate that. I think for the most part as well, the character models themselves aren't awful. I think Troughton looks pretty cool. I don't think any of them are perfect, but I think Troughton looks okay. I think and a lot of the like supporting characters I think look pretty good as well. There's like the journalist guy, and there's some of the unit soldiers, and I know exactly who they are. Like, they're easily recognizable, even though the real people themselves probably didn't have the most distinct face or features or anything like that. I could tell straight away who they were. Troughton aside though, the sort of the main core cast, like Victoria and Jamie, and well, he's not the Brigadier yet, but I'm gonna say the Brigadier because force of habit, but those characters, they're the worst culprits of not looking like who they're supposed to look like. I think Brigadier, Lethbridge Stewart, because people say, actually he's not a Brigadier yet. Lethbridge Stewart, yeah, he's easily the worst. Like, people have said it before, it's the way that his face is sort of like that, it doesn't really quite work. I'm gonna get clipped up doing that and it's gonna look fucking terrible. It's a shame. It is a shame with the character models, because with those in particular, because they are quite an important part of the story, as they are like the main characters. So the other thing as well is the movement. Now I think when they're walking about and stuff like that, then it's fine, but when they're sort of stood still, it's like these characters are constantly moving and they're doing this all the time. And if this is winding you up when you're watching this with me talking like this and doing all this sort of movement, that's kind of what it was like watching the episode. It's not as like over the top or dramatic as I was doing it just then, but there are moments where you're just like, why are you moving so much? Like, just fucking stay still. Like, you don't have to move. I understand that with an animation, you don't want it to look static and you don't want it to look like you've not even done anything. And I get that. There's a balance, isn't there? You know, there's too much and there's too little. And I think this was too much. Oh, the Yeti, I didn't even, sorry, Lethbridge Stewart is not the worst, the Yeti are the worst. And they're the ones where I was saying before, like, it is mind-blowing how they looked at them and thought, yep, they're good enough, because the Yeti don't look like the Yeti at all. Like, the Yeti are obviously quite big, furry creatures, and with this, they don't look as puffed out as the actual Yetis do. And the fur really looks off to the point where it almost just looks like a furry man as opposed to like this big monster. Obviously the Yeti are not the pinnacle of Doctor Who monster. I know some people are going to have a go at me for saying that, but you know, they're not the most iconic villain. You know, it's not like the Daleks or the Cybermen. But seeing them in this, I was like, ooh, they do not look right. They look really, really weird. I think the main thing I can say about this was, it was a failed experiment. But at the same time, even though I've moaned and I've probably insulted and offended everyone who was working on this, unintentionally by the way, I'm very happy that you did experiment. That's the point. I am very excited to see these animations, and I'm very happy for the animators, whoever it may be, to try new things like this and do switch it up every now and again. And the thing is, I wouldn't be against seeing another 3D story. The problem is, not like this. I am glad that it was done on a story that only needed one episode, because I do feel like, had this been Evil of the Daleks or a 4-part, 6-part story, I feel like it would have been a massive mistake, and it definitely would not have gone down well. So yeah, in future, please do experiment. Like, I'm very happy to see what else they can do, you know, how else you can bring these stories back to life and make them for all these fans who've been waiting years to see them for the first time, or even see them again after watching it when it was first broadcast. I mean, don't get me wrong, I think the 2D style is working, and you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But like I said, I think 3D animation could work as well. I think there's so many different styles that you can go with, even an anime style, like a full-on anime style. There is a Doctor Who anime that's on YouTube. I don't know if anyone's seen it. I might do a review of that actually, because it's fucking top. But yeah, something like that, even that'd be cool. In the comments below guys, let me know what you thought of the Web of Fear Part 3. Do you agree with what I'm saying? Did you really like it? Whatever it is, let me know down below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like on it, subscribe for more. Social media and Patreon links will be in the description as always. So if you would follow me on any of those things, I'd absolutely love you forever. But till next time guys, you take care of yourselves. Goodbye. And then I just made a noise. What the? I'm not with it today. I'm really not. And they probably weren't the most intimidating villain either. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't to you. Depends on your thoughts. Me personally, no, I don't think, you know, I like them, but they're not, you know, the best.